Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of First Impressions on the Scratch a Track podcast presented by the Dude and Grim Show. I am the Dude.
And I am Grim, and today we are going to be talking about our first initial impressions of KG by King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. I love this. It came out on 2020.
Dang. That's pretty great. That does not happen very often.
Well, November 2020. I guess I forgot the November.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So there's that. So not 2020.
2020. But a lot of 20s in there.
There's a lot of 20s. So many 20s. Yes. So this basically it came out yesterday as we're recording this episode.
Yeah.
Now, one thing we've noticed some bands doing more, and they've done this as well. A lot of bands are really putting out singles ahead of time, so you're actually getting almost a third to half of the album in some instances. For bands, and I think there was at least 3, and then I think the 4th single came out yesterday. If I have
the fifth one came out the day before, which was Intrasport.
Right.
So you're right. Before the album was released, you could get your hands on half of it. I mean, we saw the same thing with the Flaming Lips album that just came out. And,
American Headed.
And I think same thing with the Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny demo. I think a lot of that.
I'm not sure.
Some of that was out, though.
Some of that.
It wasn't just like a single, to really wet your palate.
Right. Well, and same with Gorilla's Strange Times as well. But they did theirs. Well, they did theirs like it was kind of like an episode kind of thing, and every month, and that's kind of what they did here too. If you look at the
July,
dates,
August, September,
October, November. Yeah,
I like it how they did when they released it in July, August, and September at least. Never mind. Well, it was 13, 14, and 15, but a little jumbled up. Close enough.
A little jumbled up. We're trying to get our numbers straight today.
Dude, some days some days are more alternative facts days, if you know what I mean.
Is this what day is this?
It's a weekday.
Well, after listening to it for the first time, now this is their 16th studio album, most impressive. But after listening to it, I think I listened to it twice yesterday and then once this morning. So I got about 3 turns in, and I said to you yesterday, I was like, wow, it has this real kind of Eastern feeling to it. And we hadn't done any research or looked anything up.
No, and I said, listen to Flying Microtonal Banana, because it is like a more acoustic kind of continuation of that.
Right, exactly. And when we started doing research, not only is it that, but it is the what is the subtitle that they came to? Explorations into Microtonal Tuning. This is volume 2. So I'm curious, are they going to complete the trilogy, do you think? Or are they just going to kind of keep these going? Or is this just going to kind of be a
I wonder. I really
2?
like what they do with the microtonal tuning. I mean, and if you want to get really super nerdy into it, a lot of people would argue that some of those scales that use microtones are more pure, because if you break down fundamental frequencies like that comprise a note, what our ears would hear as like a third is actually slightly detuned, because we have an equal tempered scale, which means that like each note is a certain amount apart, wherein using those kind of microtonal tunings, they're looking to go like for the exact thing that would be a third or a fifth, or where we kind of cheated a little bit so that as you go up the piano, the spacing of the notes is consistent, or a guitar or whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that's getting like super kind of nerdy, I realize, but that's why sometimes people will almost be like a little off-put maybe when they hear things that are done in microtones, because our whole concept of music in the Western world is based on an equal tempered tuning. So
interesting.
Food for thought.
That makes a lot of sense. So I hadn't, I've read a little bit up on it, and we talked about this kind of yesterday, because I think their most recent albums that we've really listened to, especially Polygon Wonderland, which is one of our favorites. So if you guys are around on Wednesday, just dropping a hint, might want to check out Scratch a Track on Wednesday. But their music that I've listened to, the majority of the albums. Now, this isn't true for all their albums, but there is kind of a they have a sound. I feel like, especially and I do like it. I think it's good. But I kind of read part of an review that NME did of this album, and they basically said that they're just repeating themselves. And
how many bands could you say that about, though?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, that's a very good point. I think where the criticism would come in from that stance, and where maybe if I was critical of it as well, would be I really like them. I think they're a phenomenal band, and
incredibly
I love their sound.
Prolific.
Yeah, I think that maybe the certain critics and people might want them to be taking further steps in more of a progression, like larger steps in progressing or changing their sound. But then people also criticize bands for doing that as well if they go in a complete different direction. So,
and here's my if I were going to offer anything against that criticism, I mean, quite frankly, you wonder how many of their albums that this critic listened to, because let's rewind a minute to what came out in 2019, Fishing for Fishies, which was just kind of a psychedelic rock album. And then they were like, oh, just by the way, we're going to go 100% speed metal and put out Infest the Rat's Nest. And really, I mean, dude, Sketches of Brunswick East is very much like jazz. I guess I think those critics are kind of short-sighted and should look at more of the stuff they've done. I could understand why they would say that, because this is very similar to Flying Microtonal Banana. But at the same time, there's ways where I don't think it is, because I hear a lot of elements of this, like with some of the long sustained flutes and stuff that remind me of Polygon Dwanaland, and some different sounds with the electric guitar, maybe with a couple solos that are more like Infest the Rat's Nest, like super, but just a few licks, they don't go like full metal or anything like that, but they have like these little bits and pieces of all these things that they've done, I think anyways.
Yeah, well, I think one thing that I really do like with their albums, and this is what I had my experience with Polygon Dwanaland, is they really get into a groove, and a lot of the songs end up flowing together and sounding, I don't know if I'd say very similar, but yeah, very similar. And they end up flowing together in a way where you kind of don't even know what track you're on a little bit. Now there was the two songs on this album that really stood out to me, that actually I thought are very different than what anything on Polygon Dwanaland was. The Automation, which is I think much harder than anything you found on that album. But then Straws in the Wind with the acoustic, man, it sounds so good, dude.
If I could add a third, dude, I was really taken by Intrasport, because it had kind of almost like a synthy kind of dancey kind of vibe that I hadn't heard out of them, and not only that album, but really any of the other ones. And I think if you, again, going back to the comparison of this one and Flying Microtonal Banana, that is much more, I think that is primarily done with electric instruments, that album.
Okay.
So it's like this sound. It's kind of a sound that we would probably equate in our minds as like or an Eastern kind of influenced sound, but it's like far from it. But but yeah, this is like an acoustic version of that, and I don't know. I've only listened through the whole thing once, which was yesterday, and after listening to it, I mean, I thought to myself, this will be one that will be one of my favorites by theirs.
Yeah, I could tell as soon as I listened to the first few tracks, I was like, okay, I like the road we're going down here.
Yeah,
I definitely do. And so as they've done, I think they did this with Polygon Dwanaland, if I remember correctly. So with the audio, with the track Automation, they also released the raw audio files so people can download, and separate audio channels, I guess.
Oh,
for
and
song,
so remix it.
Yeah, so I guess vocals, violin, clarinet, flute. But dude, they also, so there's a music video. They also released the files for the song's music video, and they're like, you can just create your own music video, and here's the raw files. And
I thought that video was kind of
YouTube.
trippy, man. They're all like in silver and tinfoil. Each of the videos was kind of different.
Definitely different. Sure.
I think it was Straws in the Wind, where it's just kind of like Stu McKenzie around in these different areas playing the guitar,
the acoustic.
And I like that acoustic, because when you look at it, I mean, anyone who's plays guitar or has been around people who plays guitar, you have this idea in your head of how all the frets look, right? And then the frets are kind of spaced in a certain way, and that guitar is the microtonal frets, and they're all kind of like in weird patterns all over the place, which I think is kind of cool.
Oh, that is interesting.
I would love one of those guitars.
It should also be noted that also yesterday they released a live album at the same time, which is from a show that they did in San Francisco in 2016. And just from looking at the track list and comparing it to their albums, I noticed that it looked like the majority of the songs were off of Nonagon Infinity and I'm in Your Mind Fuzz. So it looked like at least almost half to a third of the songs on each of those albums were included on this live album. So if you're fans of like those albums,
dude,
definitely check it out. I'd be interested. I'd love to see these guys live. I think it would be pretty sweet, man.
I think a lot of fans would probably say that Nonagon Infinity is their favorite one. That was the album that got me into the band. Was really, okay. I had heard Nonagon Infinity, and dude, I don't know how I would even. It's a rock album. It's not like microtonal, and it doesn't necessarily go on a trip like Polygon Dwanaland. It's a rock album, but I mean, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, I'm digging this album, and again, it's only you've listened to it once. I've listened to it 3 times. We definitely, any people out there, give us your impressions, what you think about it. Do you like the kind of, I don't know, I'd say continuation of the microtonal kind of path that they went down here? You know, would you be excited if they did come out with a volume 3? I mean, that you know, I mean, because
I'd be
some people might be like
where
they're
they
repeating
could go.
themselves.
Well, yeah, I mean,
but hey, it happens to the best bands. But we were talking about that the other day too. I was like, you know, there's this whole idea of like a concept album of just, you know, or an album, all the songs flow together. What if you had a concept band and all their albums just flowed together? Like you could just, like you could just play one album right into the other.
Just crossfade it right on. Yeah, if you had like
seamless.
a DJ setup, you just kind of.
Dude, that'd be pretty cool. And I think if there's any band you could probably really do it with, it is these guys.
This is the one.
This is it. So yeah, if you guys are not familiar with King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, then I would highly recommend.
I'm sorry, number one. I'm sorry about that. That sucks.
Would you recommend starting on Nonagon Infinity for kind of fans or people out there who haven't listened to them, or even this one? I don't know.
I really appreciate that question, because that's a good question. I really think it depends on what your taste in music is. If you are somebody who likes just kind of straight ahead rock, yeah, I would start with Nonagon Infinity. If you like the kind of Eastern sound and you want to hear what that would sound like if there was a rock band that played it, listen to Flying Microtonal Banana. Dude, if you like kind of jazz influenced stuff, Sketches of Brunswick East. If you just like some of the greatest albums of all time, Polygon Dwanaland. Or this one. I'm looking forward to listen. And if you're a metalhead, I don't know why you wouldn't like Infest the Rat Nest. That's why I'm like, don't say that they're just repeating stuff, because they went places in, let's see, between their first album release in 2012. So in 8 years, they went places that it took like many bands and decades to go in rock music, in my opinion.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite track or one that, I mean, I think you said Intrasport's the one that really stood out for you, right?
Yeah, I would say at this point that was Straws in the Wind is really great too, but Intrasport was just a sound from them where I was like, holy shit, like I did not expect this, and it's awesome.
Cool.
What about you, dude?
Well, I'd probably have to go with probably Straws in the Wind is probably in the lead at the moment. I really liked Automation too.
Yeah.
Those are my two, and those are two singles, but so they've been out for a little bit. But this is the first, I've only heard them for 2 days. I definitely would go with those two, but I think it's a good album, man. I'm excited to continue listening to it and just all their stuff, man.
Another question.
Good sound. Okay.
If you had to say what is the best title of any song on this track, what are you going with? Because, dude, a song called Minimum Brain Size is fucking great.
That's the one that actually stood out to me. I mean, there's a song called Honey. I mean, it's like, okay, Honey. The Hungry Wolf of Fate.
Yeah.
That's kind of dark.
Yeah.
So, well, I think that wraps up our initial first impressions of KG by King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Awesome.
And maybe we did talk offline, dude. We're thinking maybe the next album is LW.
It could be.
It could be.
I mean, this is
just
KG,
don't
LW,
know. We just
or they could
don't
throw
know.
us for a loop, and who knows?
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for listening. Please like and subscribe, and stay tuned on Wednesday, especially if you're a King Gizzard and Lizard fan, because we're gonna do a full album. So just dropping that,
and we're going deep.
Yeah. So hope you have had a great start to your week, and we can't wait to see you on Wednesday. So take care, everyone.
First Impressions is produced by the Dude and Grim. Additional music provided by More. That's .more and the Tims, TIMNZ. Copyright 2020, The Dude and Grim Show.
Well, I think I'm going away.